Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for today is Thursday, April 29th. The update today is once again brought to you by the Just Research Program at the University of Wisconsin, recruiting and seeking adult Black men and women over the age of 40 to take a brief 10-minute online survey and possibly an interview as well about what kind of health studies you would feel comfortable participating in, because they need more Black people to be part of clinical trials. Let's be honest. Medicines and therapies that are being tested right now, and that's not just right now, but forever, have mostly been tested on white people. So you can't. So when have Black people who have diabetes or lupus or sickle cell diseases that particularly affect Black people, you have all these medicines that have only been tested on white people. That doesn't work, obviously. So they need more Black people to participate in clinical trials of new medications. And so they just want to ask you, what would help you trust us and to be able to participate in these clinical trials? So if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to give them 10 minutes to that cause, call the number on your screen, 608-709-9470, or shoot them an email, justresearch@ictr.wisc.edu. All right, let's talk COVID. Actually, you know what? Let's not talk COVID yet. I want to talk about something that's on my mind right now. That this is something that we literally just got done with. This is a screen capture from our Facebook Live town hall that we had with the 5 police chiefs and sheriffs in Wisconsin who are Black. We had Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes here, the new incoming sheriff of Dane County, Calvin Barrett, here, Andre Sales, the new police chief in Beloit, the sheriff of Milwaukee County, Ernell Lucas, and the acting police chief in Milwaukee, city of Milwaukee, Jeff Norman. And it was a very interesting conversation about what was your reaction to the conviction of Derek Chauvin. How do you talk to your sons and your children about police interaction? They were all very candid about that. And it was very interesting to hear that these guys know, as police leaders, as law enforcement leaders, they know the systemic racism that exists in policing. And they know that they've got to teach their kids to interact with the police a certain way, and none of them like it. So they're all going to work to change it. And it was very interesting. One other newsworthy thing that came out of this, really, to me, is that Sean Barnes, the police chief of Madison, city of Madison, said that, first of all, he has a PhD, and his dissertation was on racial disparities in traffic stops. So that's kind of right on point, right? His idea right now is to reduce the number of police interactions by not pulling people over for small things like, your tags are expired. Like, that's a ticket you can give somebody in the mail, right? You do not need an armed agent to enforce that rule. So he's saying, he's got a little bit more analysis to do yet, and a little more work to do on figuring that out. But that's one of the ideas he had, is just let's not pull people over for paperwork violations. His comment was, that's between you and the DMV. Like, it's not a police issue if you forgot to renew your car license plates. That's between you and the DMV. And if that were in place in Minneapolis, Dante Wright would still be alive. Remember, they pulled him over for expired tags, and 5 minutes later he was dead. So, just that kind of like reducing the number of interactions where there's a gun involved, it's not a bad thought. And I thought that was really interesting thing. It was an hour conversation. It felt like 10 minutes. It went so fast. I had a lot of questions from the audience. So if you just scroll down on our Facebook page right now, you'll see the that video is going to be there. It's going to stay there on our Facebook page. We'll probably put it over on our YouTube channel as well tomorrow. But if you just scroll down on our Facebook feed, you'll see it and watch it. And it's an hour, and it's well worth your time. Really interesting conversation. And we really, really appreciate all 5 of those guys giving us an hour. I mean, those are busy guys, right? And they didn't have to do that, and they didn't have to do it live. Like, it would be totally expected for them to say, like, we'll do it, but we don't want to do it live. Like, we want it recorded. We want to control the message, and they didn't. right? They made themselves vulnerable to that being live and taking questions from the audience. We didn't get to all the questions. There were a lot of questions, but they were open to it. So anyway, also today we have a new episode of Real Talk with Henry Sanders with Judge Derek Mosley, Milwaukee municipal judge, former prosecutor. Before that, an intern at the FBI and at the JAG Corps in the military. Really interesting conversation with him. Wherever you get your podcasts, except Spotify. Spotify is having all sorts of problems today. But Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or YouTube, you can check out this interview. It's a really interesting conversation that you'll probably enjoy. All right, now let's get to COVID numbers. Today, not terrible. Again, basically we're doing this thing all week long where we're basically mirroring almost exactly the pattern of last week, which is good. That means we're being consistent. We've hit kind of a plateau. Plateau doesn't sound great. You'd rather all the numbers be going down, but several weeks ago we were going up at such a rate that I was really concerned that we were continuing to go up, and that would be bad news. So the fact that we've kind of plateaued, that we're seeing this weekly pattern that's repeating itself, that's okay. Today, 806 new cases, still kind of a lot. Our positive test rate, which is that all important number, is still 3.2. So basically for a week now, we've been hovering just above 3.0. It kind of vacillating 3.1, 3.2. Okay, that's not terrible. We really want that to be below 3.0. Okay, so it's still a tiny bit on the high side, but the fact that it's kind of stuck there just over 3, we'll take it. We are reporting 8 fatalities today. Yesterday, we reported 34, which is the most we've reported in a long time. And I said yesterday, I hoped that those were actually older. And as it turns out, I was right. Stephanie was able to take a closer look at that data later after my show last night. And only 7 of those 34 fatalities that we reported yesterday, only 7 took place in the month of April. The other 27 were older than that, going all the way back to October. So the fact is, we don't have a lot of fatalities happening right now, but we are reporting a lot of fatalities that hadn't been confirmed yet over the past several months. Okay, so that number is a little bit deceptive. So don't worry about that too much. Okay, let's talk vaccine for a minute. We are now down to 37,000 shots per day, which sounds like a lot. I'm sorry, 38,000 shots per day. Sounds like a lot. That is a lot, frankly. But 2 weeks ago we were at 64,000 a day. So I don't know that that's going down. It seems to be going down just because of lack of demand. Like people just are kind of not getting around to it. Dane County is doing very well. The rest of the state is slowing down considerably. So as of today, we have 33.1% of the population has been vaccinated. 1 in 3 people in Wisconsin has been fully vaccinated. That's good. That means 2 out of 3 haven't yet. Okay. So that means a lot of people are still vulnerable. Just under 2 million people have completed their vaccine series. That leaves about 3 million people, probably, maybe 2.5 million, who are eligible, who have not yet gotten the shot. So please do. There are a lot of people who have barriers to get the shot, where it's really hard to get to a clinic, to take a day off of work, to do all that stuff. And not to mention to make an appointment. People don't have broadband internet and you got to go online to make an appointment. It's difficult, right? So there's a lot of work being done at the local and the state level to get vaccines to those people who have barriers. Those of us who don't have barriers, where it's just inconvenient, it's on you, it's on us to take our little step toward getting to 80% vaccinated, because that's where we need to get. We need to get to 80% to get that sort of herd immunity effect to happen. So That is that we at 30, like I said, 33.1% fully vaccinated. We need to get that to 80. So keep pushing, everybody. Just keep getting it done one at a time. When you get your vaccine shot, it's not just for you. That's like your contribution to the overall fight against this virus. Okay. And in the meantime, until we get to 80%, we have to keep our masks on. We have to keep our distance. We got to do all that stuff that we've been doing that we're so sick of now. We're so sick of it, but we got to keep doing it. Now, one other thing I'll mention is that there is a new public health order for Dane County. This is only Dane County. And it goes into effect next Wednesday. And really all it changes is the capacities for indoors events. Basically, it says restaurants, starting next Wednesday, restaurants can go from 50% capacity up to 75%. So restaurants and bars can be open starting next week to 75% capacity. Also, any events that are indoors that do not have food or drink can have 500 people with masks on and with social distancing enforced. If you're having a dinner and there's food and drink, 350 is the limit. You still have to do the distancing and the masking when you're not eating. Outdoor events stay basically the same. There's no limit, except you have to keep capacity to the point where each household can be distanced from each other household. So if you're having, like, for example, the Madison Mallards are having a big announcement of their new logo and their new look, and they're going to have people in the stands and people on the field, and they could have 10,000 people in there. If everything was normal, you could fit 10,000 people in that stadium. But because you have to keep every little household, every group of like 4 or 5 people, 6 feet from every other group, it's going to be like 2,000 people tops, right? So there's not a hard and fast rule from the county, except that you got to keep the little household pods separated from each other, which is going to severely limit your ability to have a really large outdoor event like a soccer game or a baseball game or a concert. So that doesn't change in this new order, but it's the indoor stuff that really does change. So, and if you're like me, it's not going to change your life much at all because I'm not doing any indoor eating yet, right? I'm just not there yet. I've got a little over a week left until I have full immunity, but even then, I'm just not going to do it. I'm gonna stay home like I have been. We've been doing fine for over a year now. A couple more months and we'll be fine. Okay. All right, we're going to take a short pause and come back with more news from Madison365.org. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Here in the Midwest, community is important.
Having a healthcare system that's looking out for us,
that's actively addressing the racial disparities in healthcare is important.
When we can get good quality care,
we can do more. We can achieve more.
We can be the kind of community we want to be, and that's really important.
UW Health. Remarkable medicine. Remarkable care.
All right. So today we have a couple of good features on the website that you probably want to take a look at. The first is about the Music Theater of Madison's new album, which is called My American Mythology. This is Camille Hunt. She's one of the directors, one of the performers. Basically, this local musical theater company, they've been around for several years now. And without, through COVID time, they couldn't have performances. So they decided, what can we do? What's a theatrical thing we can create? That doesn't need a stage or a room. It doesn't need us to be together. So they created this concept album called My American Mythology. And I'm very excited about it because it features a bunch of artists, mostly artists of color from Madison and Milwaukee, doing original songs that were basically commissioned just for this project. And they're going to start dropping the tracks in sort of like a staggered rollout starting on May 14th. So we got to wait a couple more weeks yet. But Aomi Wolf, our wonderful reporter, spoke with Camille, who's kind of the director, as well as several of the other performers, about what this project means and what they hope for it. And it's a really cool little story. So check that out, and then watch for the tracks to start to drop in a few weeks. Also today, we have an announcement of the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Black Chamber Resiliency Showcase. They have hosted now, this will be the fourth year that they've been doing a Black Chamber Awards banquet of sorts. We actually were a recipient of one of their awards a few years ago, which we appreciate. This week, it's less about awards and more about resiliency, celebrating the resiliency of the Black-owned businesses that have survived this past year. And Jason Fields, the CEO of Madison Regional Economic Partnership, will speak, as will this person you see here, Loida Nicholas Lewis, who is the wife of Reginald Lewis. If you sign up for this thing, it's $35 to attend. It's a virtual event. It's on Thursday night next week. Next Thursday, May 6th. You get a copy of this book called Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? By Reginald Lewis, who is the first Black man to build $1 billion business empire. And he is no longer with us, but his wife will be speaking at this Madison Chamber event. And if you attend the event, you actually get a copy of the book as a bit of inspiration for you. Again, that's the stories at Madison365.org, and there's a link there to register for that event. Marquette University. We are all going to be jealous because they got John Ridley as their commencement speaker. He is an Oscar winner. He won for Best Adapted Screenplay for 12 Years a Slave back in 2013. He also did the documentary on the Los Angeles riots back in 2017. It was called Let It Fall, Los Angeles, 1982 to 1992, which basically it wasn't just about the riots, but it was about everything that led up to the riots. That got a ton of critical acclaim. But he's from Milwaukee. So he'll be there delivering the commencement address for Milwaukee's own Marquette University. All right, that is what I have for you today. We'll have more news for you tomorrow morning in the It's Only 10 Minutes podcast. Again, I highly recommend that you watch that hour-long conversation we had with the Black police chiefs. It's just such an interesting perspective that's not heard enough. And we understand that, we'll do another town hall with more like community folks, because we don't, if you know me, I'm skeptical of police. But it's still important to listen and to be open, and to make it a kind of dialogue. So that's what we're trying to do. And I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. again, and with more news of the day. And I appreciate you sticking with me, and have a wonderful evening. We'll see you soon.
This is 365 Media.